Karen, glad you managed to come on now because we just got news. Now, I was talking to Professor Gibbs. We were just talking about him, trying to go through the various peace proposals floating around. And it looks like they're far from a deal. If you want to listen to the Iranians, they're far from a deal. And the Iranians said, we don't expect to reach a deal, even if over the next few weeks, according to the spokesperson for the foreign ministry. And then he put out a warning while I was doing that live. He put out a warning. He said, we urge the U.S. administration not to do another stupid mistake. We've got new weapons, new targets, and new strategies this time around. So be careful not to strike us again, because an Axios report came out earlier today saying that Trump may strike them one last time and walk away and call it a victory, but Iran may retaliate a lot more than they have previously and drag the U.S. back into it. Well, we just got a report in the last few minutes that the Qatari delegation left the country, number one. I think Asim Munir from Pakistan is still there from what I understand, but the Qatari delegation left, and Iran closed their airspace in the West. And one source is saying they've scrambled a few fighter jets as well. They've closed the airspace till Monday. So, and the Iranians have been saying that they are concerned that the Americans may strike them because of the inability to reach a deal. And we've been seeing those reports for a while. So we are in a position right now where Trump has a decision. I think also Trump said he's not going to go to his son's wedding.
Exactly.
Is it this weekend?
It is, yeah.
All right, cool. So let's align all these ducks. We got Tulsi just left. The wedding is this weekend, and Trump decided not to go. Iran just closed their airspace and gave a warning to the US, and Iran just said a deal looks far from being achieved.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. I mean, this is Trump's pattern too. He likes to, do something violent and spectacular, and then call it a victory and pull out. We certainly need to leave them. I mean, our military is not, they're in many cases sitting ducks. I hate to say it, but we have been harmed by what's already gone on for the last 60 something days. So, logistically, we're not well supported. People are tired. They're in constant state of anticipation. This is not our military is not battle hardened. It's not like the Russian military after 4 years of war with Ukraine. Those guys are battle hardened. They are kind of coping with what they need to do and moving forward. Our military, you can't say is battle hardened. We like to bomb from afar. We don't like getting shot back at. We're not used to it. We have a terrible time repairing in the field, being resilient. So he's either got to do something quick, or he is going to be forced by his own officers, his generals, to pull back, really fix things before we float back in next year or whatever and do this again. So, and Trump doesn't like that. Trump doesn't want to have to float back in next year and do it again. He wants to be able to be done with it. He's anxious to go to Cuba, it looks like now. I think if you watch Trump, which we all do, it would not be unexpected. It would be predictable. In fact, he's become predictable, and that's actually not good. One of Trump's strengths were nobody could predict when he would do things. But now, because he's repeated the pattern, it looks like it. Yeah, it looks bad. And again, what Iran can do is what they want to do. They have a plan. Even if they're decapitated, the plan continues. And if that includes targets in Israel, because Israel is a part of the problem here, it could include that.
They said, Iran said, just to let you know, Iran in their warning, they said, we are prepared for new scenarios for the US and its allies with an S. So they're dragging the Gulf into it. They've made it very clear. Yeah. But before we continue, what just walked in? I saw it in the background.
Oh, that was one of our dogs. Yes, he's a border collie. He's a good boy. But I think there's a little bit of weather. When he hears thunder in the distance,
it's so cute. I heard the door open. It's so adorable.
Yeah, he opened the door. Shut it.
It's you can walk and shut it. It's all good. Yeah, so they've threatened the Gulf, and my worry is that if Trump decides to strike, like Axios said, a one-off strike, what if Iran just goes haywire, just goes all out this time, and I say, look, we're done with this game. We're going to make sure you never strike us again. And I was going to say they forced Trump into it, but I was saying in my last interview that it's literally impossible for Trump to get into a prolonged war. He's just froze the military arms sales to Taiwan because they don't have enough arms and munitions, and they've done the same as we know for Ukraine. A lot of delays there, so they just don't have the capacity for a prolonged war.
No, we don't. In fact, I don't know what Trump has sent in additionally, but we certainly have been sending things in. You know, we've got air refuelers, jets are there, more jets than we had before, whatever they're carrying. You know, I think he's ready to unload what he sent in and unleash whatever naval capacity they have to send missiles in to whatever targets they have. And then we don't have any follow through. There is no military follow through. It's just he wants something big, lots of explosions. And then he'll say what he always says is it was obliterated, we won, but this time he will pull back because the world economy and the nations of the world, people, countries and people that are dependent on, you know, this oil trade, gas trade, fertilizer trade, helium trade, whatever it is, it's all being stopped up. They are increasingly nervous and worried. And I'm talking about the money people, you know, the BlackRocks and the top guys who look at the ramifications 3 or 4 levels down. It's not looking good. Even if peace broke out today, like Trump said, you know what? I talked to Netanyahu. He and I agree. We're done. We're finished. Netanyahu's pulling back to the to the borders before this thing. Even if he did that, there's a long recovery period that's expected, and it's a necessary period that we have to build back. And, you know, a lot of these countries, the U.S. did it, but what are we doing? We're going through our reserves. Other countries, China used their reserves. They have more oil reserves, but we bled those out into the system to try to reduce the shock. If Iran goes crazy, or it wouldn't be going crazy, and I don't think they would go crazy because I honestly don't see them as crazy, but if they hit the kind of targets that they're suggesting that they would hit, the whole world doesn't have the energy resilience. You know, if oil totally is shut down in the Strait for some reason for another 3 months because of damage to ports and refineries, the world doesn't really have the ability to keep gas prices at $4.50 in the United States. They will go up to $6.50, $7. It will be paying California prices. And the U.S. can't do that. You know, we drive too much. We are a society, and that hits every single voter, every single person. Trump's already very unpopular. Does he really want to become more unpopular? Whole world's on his case about what he's done to the world economy. I think he wants to finish it. But in Trump's mind, he cannot. Maybe he can. Maybe he can paint some victory without bombing. But I think in his mind,
he can. He could make anything up. He could make anything up for sure.
He's good at that.
He should.
Yes, he should. He absolutely should. I wouldn't want to test what Iran is saying because they have shown. Well, first off, they've got allies that are quite capable, and Russia and China are very militarily capable and technologically capable, and those guys are not giving us weapons. They're giving Iran weapons. They're giving Iran expertise and advice. This is not something that we can win. You just have to create the out. You have to create the exit plan. Now, who is advising Trump to do that? Well, nobody. The people around him are basically taking the same position as Netanyahu. It's not time to end the war yet. We need to keep going because Israel's not done with their agenda. Amongst, South Lebanon, Gaza, they're busy doing as much as they can do, and they need to run the clock out as long as possible. So they want us over there threatening, perhaps bombing, but the United States does not have that capability. I think there's one more attack left in us before something starts to break. And actually, this next attack could break something. I mean, you could see a major ship in the Arabian Sea be sunk. And I don't mean a carrier, but we've got a lot of ships over there with a lot of targets. And, I was shocked when they were able to destroy the Sentry, the E-3A, with the big, very recognizable recon or communications surveillance aircraft. If they take a ship out, that's even bigger. It's bigger than a E-3. I mean, in terms of the impact it's going to have.
Could they, because the problem if this war happens is the Gulf. Because if the Gulf wasn't there and there weren't American allies, the Strait of Hormuz obviously wasn't there. The US wouldn't care as much about striking Iran. But the Gulf obviously don't want this one. They're pressuring Trump probably more than anyone based on his posts. He's actually admitted that himself, and I think he's saying the truth. So there's two scenarios. If Trump goes all out, Iran will retaliate in the Gulf. If Trump attacks him, the Gulf's going to take a hit. And the Gulf are not going to take it lightly this time around. Do you think there's a scenario where Trump gives the green light for Israel to strike Iran? Netanyahu needs a war, and maybe Iran retaliates without striking the Gulf. So we go back to a 12-day war-like scenario, which is also stupid, to be honest, but that's a possibility, maybe.
That is what I think. We're seeing peace movement, Qatar, obviously Oman, Saudi Arabia, the big one. They don't want more war, and they understand the damage that can be done. They don't want that. They need to prosper. Everybody wants to get past this and not have to rebuild every single thing, and not be targeted by Iran. They want to get along with Iran. They may not like them, but they want to they realize, Iran has made a point that you have to live with us, and we are powerful. We have a say here, and nobody in the region, nobody in the world can deny that Iran has been mistreated by the world. I mean, the kinds of sanctions that they've undergone, all this, it's a big problem. It's not fair. And so I think the scenario you described as a possibility is what's going to happen regardless of who starts. I think Israel's going to take it hard. I think that's who's going to get hit most. And I think any targets, this is just me thinking this way. Maybe it's not true. I am not inside the Iran military's brain. I don't know what the targets are, but I would think that given the direction and movement and leanings of especially Saudi Arabia now, and some of these other Gulf states, that Iran will kind of not target them. Or if they do target them, can keep it very focused, as they did really in some ways on American military installations, which have already been hit. Those targets are not as good of targets as they used to be because a lot of damage.
I got bad news. I got some more bad news for you. No strikes. Just I thought I'd give you. So there's the UAE is currently experiencing widespread GPS and navigation signal jamming of aircraft across multiple areas of the country. Number one. Number two, access. Just the UAE apparently just now. That's the report I just received now. And number two is so widespread jamming of the GPS and navigation signal jamming of aircraft. So that will be done what? Because there's aircraft potentially flying out of the UAE that they don't want the Iranians to spot, or is it the Iranians interfering in the GPS? Or is it the I don't know. Who do you think is jamming it? Is it the UAE jamming it? Because
my first thought would be the Iranians are jamming it, but you make a good point. Anybody could be jamming it. The U.S.
Yeah, like I was thinking.
Arabia, it's hard
the
to
Iranians
say.
will be jamming it to kind of to preempt an attack by the US and make it harder for them. The Emiratis could be jamming them because they were worried about an Iranian attack, even though I think that's highly unlikely. Because there was reports, by the way, Israeli reports, so I don't trust these reports, but they're saying that Iran may preemptively strike the Gulf in Israel. That came out today as well, by the way, on Jerusalem Post.
Yeah.
Or obviously, last point is obviously the Iranians intercept. Yeah, that's it. That's the two scenarios. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the UAE has doubled down on wanting Iran to be hit harder, wanting the U.S. to play a deeper role. And also, even though there's been some weird, I think Netanyahu threw the UAE under the bus with the publicity of the nature of their relationship, much closer than other people may have thought or publicly known. But it's UAE for whatever reason very seen as an ally of Israel, and Israel, of course, is the a big part of the problem. If you buy that that we went into this war, the United States was convinced to go into this war by Israel, which is something the president, the Secretary of State, and the State Department itself has all said, and Joe Kent has said, who's in the White House area. So we go to war because Israel made us do it or convinced us to do it, and also misled us about the potential results of it, which no excuse for that. Our own intel knew. Trump listened to Netanyahu. He did not listen to his own intelligence people. But in any case, Israel is an instigator. We are co-instigators. But part of this, the thing that Iran wants, of course, is peace on all of the war fronts. They want the Lebanon thing. They want Israel pull back out of South Lebanon, let the Lebanese people go back to their homes, although they can't because most of, a lot of them have been destroyed, but whatever. And then Gaza is being really, what's happening in Gaza is a compounded genocide at this point. They, medicine, disease, this is what was predicted even last year, but now, you can't sustain 2.5, 3 years of starvation, bad water, no shelter, constant psychological damage of being pot shotted at. And
I posted a video of girls role playing a funeral, literally taking a dead body on a stretcher, a doll as a dead body, role playing little girls, a doll on a stretcher, and then making it into a funeral. It was a heartbreaking video.
What Israel is doing, of course, it's a total war, and it is genocide in Gaza for sure. But they haven't backed off of that. They've actually taken advantage of this. Well, part of the reason Netanyahu wanted us to hit Iran was to give them more top cover and more ability to kind of shield themselves from what they're doing, because their plan is very clear. In Gaza and in South Lebanon and in Syria, their plan is very clear. So they're executing that plan. They need the chaos and the war and the pressure that we bring, that Trump is willingly brought into the region. But it's at a different phase now. We don't have the capability to sustain it. Trump is going to either end it because he is forced to by his generals, or he will end it because he's beat by the Iranians, or he can choose to end it politically, which is what he should do. But Netanyahu, why did they have a fight on Tuesday with the phone call? Why did Netanyahu why were they screaming at each other? Because Netanyahu wants this to continue, and Trump understands, I think, deep down, not only politically in his own country can it not continue, very unpopular and costly, but the whole world is blaming Trump for this, which they should, but Trump doesn't need that. And also, of course, he recognizes, whether he says it or not, because, he says we've obliterated everything and we've lost nothing. He will say that repeatedly, but he does know what his generals are telling him. And I don't know if you saw the one of the Navy guys, not the commander of CENTCOM, but the other, I don't know if it was chief of naval operations. I don't know who it was, some admiral. And he explained why the blockade could not include escorting any ships through the strait. And he was explaining to the Congress why this would be impossible until there's peace, until Iran allows escorts to happen. But part of it is the narrowness of the strait. It's very, my brother was a Navy helicopter pilot. He said he's been through the strait numerous times back in the day. And he said it is probably one of the most dangerous places to go through just geographically, with underwater topography. It's narrow. It is, all hands on deck. It's very dangerous and you have to be very careful. So this idea of just, we'll just escort this guy or that guy through and we're going to do this. You can't. And this is what the Admiral told the Congress. He said, we can't escort until it is safe to escort. And that means, and we can't make it. What he didn't say was we can't make it safe, but that's what he implied. So that's kind of, you can't get much closer to failure in a presidential mission than that.
I got some more updates for you. Ready? Excited?
Oh yeah. Can't wait.
So one of the areas that is experiencing intense GPS jamming is Zayed International Airport in Abu Dhabi. But the more important piece of news, Axios just reported, and it's honestly really hard to determine what Axios is reporting that's just been fed to them as a message to the Iranians as a way to kind of part of the information warfare, or whether it's a legitimate leak. Axios reported that Trump convened the meeting with a senior national security team on Friday to discuss the war with Iran, as he seriously considers launching new strikes, barring a last-minute breakthrough in negotiations, according to two U.S. officials. J.D. Vance, Defense Minister Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, CIA Director John Ratcliffe were all part of it. Trump canceled attending his son's wedding this weekend, citing government duties, and will remain in Washington. I think it's all a bluff, to be honest. Like, it's just too choreographed. They said that kind of offer Tulsi resigns. Trump's not going to show up to a wedding.
Yeah. Well, he's
If
also
you're on a strike, you would make it a bit of a surprise.
He's also not playing golf. He also had to cancel a golf thing that he was going to do.
Okay, now it's serious. If he's not playing golf,
That's
that
right.
is that is serious.
That's right.
That is not a bluff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the problem is, well, there's a number of problems with this weekend, but the problem that leans you towards war is it's a 3-day weekend, which means the markets are closed for a full 72 hours at least. And if he could do a quickie like he likes to do, which of course, does not very effective, but he could swoop in, and then the summer, June, end of Memorial Day, summer in America starts, after that, the summer travel season, and he can say everything's going to be fine. We've won. But the other problem is, of course, it's the Hajj week in Saudi Arabia. So, and again, I would think that Saudi has played this. I think the Saudi Arabians, the kingdom, understands and recognizes they're much better off with friends in the region than they are with the United States as their ally. We are an unreliable ally, and we are an abusive one. I think they realize that. And so they're, and also, remember the Saudis had moved towards normalization with Iran. A couple, they've had a process where they wanted to be closer to Iran. So I think, and I don't see Iran bombing Saudi Arabian targets during the Hajj. I just don't. But again, if they're attacked, they have a target list and they have an ability to proceed with that.
CBS, some U.S. military intelligence officials have canceled their Memorial Day weekend plans in anticipation of possible strikes against Iran.
Wow. Well,
no final decision has been made as of Friday afternoon.
That's what always happens. That weekend plans are canceled and you get the same kind of thing. Plus it is Friday. We've sent tons of stuff in, pretty much gleaned the excess from every Air Force base, I think, in the States and in Europe. They've gone into the region. We're prepped up to drop a lot of bombs. Trump likes dropping bombs. He's not a military guy. And so he has this fantasy that war fighting is somehow a wonderful thing and it shows how powerful you are. It actually doesn't. If you're in a war, that means everything else failed and you're an idiot. But
just Trump, don't get what is he thinking? Like, how is that even an option? How is that even an option? I don't understand.
Well, it's embarrassing for Trump if he has to, after all this time and all these threats and all these lies that he has shared as part of how great it is, that he has to pull his military back. And I mean, back all the way to the States, because some of these ships are going to need to be serviced. And once these troops, we're not hearing any social media. And always OPSEC, they have operational security, and you're not going to hear from soldiers. There was a little blip where we saw meal trays, and that's it. But once these troops that have been deployed for 30, 60, 90, or way more days come home and are on leave and they're back with their families, there will be no stopping the amount of information that will flow out. Because those guys come and the local news media says, hey, our troops are back. What's happening? Or some wife has a story she has to tell, or somebody gets killed and we say, oh yeah, this guy lost his mind because he was deployed overseas, whatever. But there's going to be news and drama. And right now there isn't any news and drama like that. We have that's a bad thing. Trump has to have something really good to balance out what's going to come when these guys come home, when these guys and gals return home. So he doesn't want them to come home yet. Okay. And also he spent literally billions of dollars, wasted billions already on the war, but he spent more billions forwarding all of our military there to the expense of the rest of our so-called national security strategy, right? I mean, you mentioned the Taiwan deal. Well, can't do that. South Korea's upset because we pulled stuff from South Korea to bring it to the Middle East. Just name your country that is having problems getting what we promised them. In fact, I think we sold stuff to Europe that we now said, well, actually, we used that up. What we sold you, we'll have to build it and give it to you later. And we've also said that to the Gulf states. You have an order, but it's going to be delayed because we used it up. Well, that's not a good look. All of this.
There's also the report that they used. Israel was able to maintain a lot of their air defense munitions while the U.S. depleted theirs. You're not sure if you saw that report on.
Yeah, I did.
US,
well,
exactly.
That's to be predicted. Israel always looks out for Israel first. And I think that article and other articles that talk about that pointed out that it's arranged that way. The whole design of the joint defense, even though we don't have a joint security or defense treaty with Israel, we certainly have a habit of defending them. But that the program for that defense relies on American munitions to a great deal, and doesn't expect Israel to expend all theirs. So they look out after, Israel puts Israel first. We say, oh, Israel influences our presidents, and it does. Of course it does. But they do not see us as equals. They see us as a tool to be used to benefit Israel. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's
yeah, exactly. That's how every country should look.
You would like to think all countries do that. And that's, I think, many Americans, they love Israel, but they still want to put America first. This is a popular, it just makes sense if you would put your country first. And so that's, I think, one of the reasons Israel is seeing unpopularity in the United States, because nobody says Israel can't put itself first, but not at the expense of America first. And that's what we've seen. So it's a typical story. It makes a lot of sense to me. Now, what it means is there's more targets in Israel right now than there are American targets, right? And Israel has refused, I say Israel, as far as I can tell, the leadership, the security folks in Israel, Netanyahu, they have refused to abide by the ceasefires that they have in Gaza. They've refused to abide by any ceasefire that they have agreed to in Lebanon. They've done nothing but accelerate. They're doing the same thing in Lebanon with targeting paramedics and that kind of thing.
Oh, you saw the video from today, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's not the first time, but they are doing the kind of things that really gets them criticized, globally. I mean, technically it's war crimes, but
or beating up those members of the flotilla, like why? Or Ben-Gvir doing that on camera, like there's just being inhumane, but there's also being stupid. Like that is a stupid thing to do. How do you think the world's going to look at you when you do something like that?
Yeah, and I think
so bizarre.
I think there's people in Israel that are very concerned, and in their Knesset that are concerned that the image that they're portraying is not good. Because you saw criticism of, I guess it was Ben-Gvir who beat up or slapped somebody. I don't know what he did, but there was another Knesset member that was doing something publicly in relation to the flotilla people that they collected up and imprisoned or held for a while, and internally they were criticized for that. They said, this is openly broadcast. Why would you do this and make us look like idiots?
They're like, do it when the cameras are not rolling. There's some people in the comments like, do it.
Yes. And they don't mind. Yes, exactly. Don't do it when the cameras are rolling. This is what they're saying. And we heard this also with the IDF back in the day. Remember when they had the underwear that they got from Gazan homes that they had gone into, and there's the images of the IDF raiding people, stealing property from the houses that in South Lebanon. That's not a good look. So the IDF gets told, hey, knock it back. Don't broadcast your social media, your stealing of this and that, or your humiliation rituals. Don't share that with the world. They were told to do that, but not because it's wrong, because obviously this is part of their strategy, but it does hurt them internationally. As if the Gaza genocide didn't already wasn't enough. They're continuing. It's like they don't realize that the rest of the world sees this, and really
they see it. They see. I was speaking to someone who's supportive of Israeli foreign policy. Very nice guy, actually.
Yeah.
He's been on the show, and he said, Murray, the way he sees it is that Israel's being held to a different standard, and just he's more from a victim mentality. That's why I saw it. That Israel's the victim, is the victim of all this aggression from different countries. And instead of getting international support, it gets criticism from the international community. And I spoke to actually someone else who's former IDF. He's actually very critical of the IDF. He used to work in Unit 8200, and he said his name is Shail. And I had this conversation as well. He's like, Mario, the way Israelis view it is like they just live in their own bubble, where it's like them against the world type bubble, which is a very dangerous place to be from a mindset perspective. I want to read out the CBS article quickly for you, just a summary of it. U.S. prepares for new military strikes against Iran. The Trump administration was preparing Friday, so today. It was preparing Friday for a fresh round of military strikes against Iran, according to sources with direct knowledge of the planning, even as diplomacy continued. No final decision on strikes had been reached as of Friday afternoon. Quote, circumstances pertaining to government are keeping Trump from attending his son, Don Jr.'s wedding this weekend, he said in a social media post. The president had planned to spend Memorial Day weekend at his golf property in New Jersey, as you said, but will now return to the White House. Some members of the U.S. military and intelligence community canceled their plans for the Memorial Day weekend in anticipation of possible strikes, according to several sources. Defense and intelligence officials began updating recall rosters for U.S. installations overseas as tranches of troops stationed in the Middle East rotate out of theater, part of an effort to reduce the American military footprint in the region amid concern about possible Iranian retaliation.
Oh, that doesn't sound good. Yeah, that doesn't sound good, because now they know. Now they should have known before, but now they know that our bases and our facilities where our men and women are will be targeted. They know that if they're pulling them out of that in preparation, but that's not enough learning. That's not enough learning.
Just
There's more learning.
The hell away. Just walk away. I know it's a loss, but there's nothing that can be done. Look, if there is something that can be done that makes us reach a peace deal and maybe get more concessions for the U.S., fine. That's just, but there is no such scenario. There's only a scenario where the outcome will be the same. And the only question is, how many munitions will you deplete? How much destruction will you cause in Iran and the Gulf and the region, and to the image of the U.S. as an ally or as a hegemon? How much more damage before you reach the same conclusion? Iran, right, unless they have some levels of information, some form of intelligence that we don't know of. Iranians are like, some members of the Iranian leadership are wanting to concede and others don't, and they want to kill the ones that don't. But I doubt it. Like, the intelligence that we've seen so far has been underwhelming. Maybe it was impressive at the beginning, but it hasn't been impressive since. So I just don't see it will baffle me if they attack. My bet is still that it's a bluff. I would still bet it's a bluff.
Hope it's a bluff. I hope it's a bluff. And Trump pops up at his son's wedding. That would be great. I'll tell you though, we are an empire. Trump may be elected, all presidents get elected, but they also are not controlled by the people. They're managed by pressures and, people and organizations that have nothing to do. They don't care about the popular will. They care about other things. And that's who our presidents are responsive to, in addition to Israel. Okay. So, Trump has a lot of pressure on him, and we are a failing empire, or I shouldn't say a failing. We're an empire in decline. We've been in decline for a long time. And that decline is accelerating. And when an empire is in decline like this, it's almost like, you know how when you're really, really scared, you can't think straight, right? And you want to think straight because that's the time you need to think, be very calm and collected and logical. But that's not how the end of empire works. You get more stupid, you get more scared and nervous, you believe more desperate. And you believe your own stuff. You believe what the people around you, the sycophants around you are telling you. And what Trump has around him and who he believes and listens to is Israel. He said he was 99% popularity in Israel. He said, I could be the prime minister. Well, he said this in an open interview. I don't know what the question was.
Yeah, he did. I've got 99% approval rating in Israel. I should be prime minister of Israel.
Right. But what he's really saying there is he understands his popularity in America is at its lowest. And he knows it's because of this war in Iran that we have not won. So if you're nervous, you're not thinking straight, it's either or. You go, well, my popularity is low because I haven't beaten Iran. I got to go beat Iran, even if you can't. He doesn't see the reality that beating Iran will be a Pyrrhic victory, and we won't beat them. I mean, what is it to beat them?
There's no beating. That's the issue. There's no.
No, it's no military solution.
Exactly. That's it.
But for Trump to say that would be admitting that all the other stuff he's been doing, and not just in Iran, but in Venezuela, what he's doing in Cuba, pushing his, throwing his weight around, making people do what he wants, submit to his will. If this he agrees to, he's agreed that everything I did up to this point was really an error. It was a waste of American, not just money and equipment, but a waste of our goodwill, our standing in the global community. And, Trump also saw how
I've got a reports of heavy traffic over Eilat in southern Israel from another source now.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Israel is trying to prepare for what they know is if they think it's going to happen, they know they're going to be a target, a big target. But you know how Putin was treated in China was very much different. Yeah. They came away, that 2-day meeting that Putin had with Xi they had a written declarations, which means a lot of work had gone into it ahead of time, and they presented new deals and things like that. That's what Trump hoped to have. He hoped to have that, but for whatever reason, he didn't get that. And of course, as you mentioned already, we are not fulfilling a promise to Taiwan because of this.
That is wild. Yeah. Honestly, if there's a war that continues, if there's a limited decapitation strike and that's it, I'd be like, okay, Trump just made a stupid decision, but he made a stupid decision with logical thinking behind it. Mm-hmm. If there's a full-blown war against Iran's energy infrastructure, then Trump is not calling the shots. Then honestly, Trump is not calling the shots. There's some significant, what Tucker's talking about, there is significant influence over Trump. Because right now I'm in the camp that Israel has too much influence over the US, but Trump still calls the shot, or the US still calls the shots. That's where my mind is at. But if we see now an attack on Iran's energy infrastructure, I take that back.
Think about what Israel is willing to sacrifice. Israel is willing to sacrifice American military power and waste it. Israel is also willing, Israel has talked about long before this war becoming an energy epicenter for the region. They want a pipeline from Saudi Arabia straight to, Haifa or one of the other ports. They are looking to, they've got the gas fields. They've already expanded the line. They've taken the southern Lebanese gas fields, just like they've taken the Gazan gas fields. They're saying those are ours and we can exploit those. So what would Israel really mind if they destroyed the capability to produce oil and to have people habitate there in the Gulf? It sounds very inhumane that's a terrible thing. Why would they do that? But what are they, they are inhumane. They've demonstrated that if you're in our way and you're not one of us, you're not inside our bubble, you're the enemy, you're the other. We don't mind if you die a horrible death or if you lose your homes and your economy. We don't care. So if Israel is calling the shots, then I would be very, very concerned. And I'll tell you why I disagree that Trump is in charge, because Trump told the media just today, Netanyahu will do what I tell him. That's what he said. Now, why would he say Netanyahu would do what I tell him? If Netanyahu would do what Trump tells him, he doesn't need to say that. But he says it because it's actually, he's not sure and he's uncertain and he doesn't want to, have to deal with the reality that maybe Netanyahu will do whatever Netanyahu wants to do, which historically has been the case in the interest of Israel. He will do it. So you have to really say, it's not that we care that our allies in the Gulf and that the energy of 20% of the world's energy might be set back for a decade and the people have to become refugees because there's no water or air conditioning. Well, yeah, that's not something America wants to see. That's logical. That's humane. But what does Israel want? Because I don't think Israel gives a, whatever. They're not that concerned about non-Israeli issues. And they actually could see that as a thing that would expedite what they need to become an energy center in the region, which is something that they do want to do and would make them wealthy. And this, again, is why they have courted the UAE very specifically, because of the wealth of the UAE and the oil production, gas production that the UAE has. This is a way to, that network could be, Emirati oil and gas can come over land and be exported at an Israeli port. This is part of what they've been looking at, because Israel's not that wealthy. It's wealthy per capita, certainly, but it's a tiny little place. So they have visions of being bigger, not just geographically bigger, but economically bigger. They want to be a player at the level of, the top 5 countries of the world. I think they see themselves as deserving of that and capable of managing that. And if they really want that, and they don't have any morals or scruples or humane intent, then you can't say that they would not be willing to destroy it. And as you pointed out, as the New York Times or the Post or whatever said, they've got more missiles left than we do of their percentage of their inventory.
Yeah, not more in total amounts, but they've wasted less. They've spent less on this war, and the US spent more protecting Israel. Just a quick update for the audience on what's happening now that got me and Karen so concerned. So we got a report that Iran, the Qatari delegation left Iran, and Iran closed its airspace in the west, and they've scrambled a few fighter jets, more than usual. And then we saw reports that there's interference with the GPS signals in Abu Dhabi at the airport. And then we had a CBS report that Trump is considering strikes on Iran this weekend. And then some of people in his cabinet have delayed their holidays this weekend. They've kind of canceled their plans for holidays this weekend in order, there it is here. Some members of the US military and intelligence community canceled their plans for Memorial Day weekend in anticipation of possible strikes, according to several sources in a report by the CBS. And then we have, so one of the areas that is experiencing intense GPS jamming is the main airport in Abu Dhabi, and some GPS jamming in Dubai. And lastly, we had a report of heavy air traffic in Eilat in southern Israel. Now that could be strikes towards Lebanon. I'm not sure what this is for. I'm not saying there's fighter jets heading towards Iran right now, but putting all this together is just not a good look. And kind of there's 2 scenarios here, as we said earlier. Could be just a Trump bluffing because the ball's in Iran's court right now in terms of the proposal, in terms of responding, or it could be just exactly what it is. It could be just preparations for strikes. As you said, it's a long weekend, which means the markets won't be open on Monday. So more reasons for Trump to attack. And what I've said earlier is, in terms of who's calling the shots, I think the way we know is, as I've said, what happens next. Like if Trump does walk away and leave this as is, the Strait of Hormuz is not in Iran's control, and then Iran keeping their ballistic missile program, their proxies, their enriched uranium, that's a shot in the head for Israel. That'll be horrible for them.
It's all about the timing.
Although you might see me, if you see me go off screen, they'll just be fixing my camera, okay?
Oh, okay. But no, I mean, the timing is everything. If Israel feels or believes that we are going to call it a win, go home, replenish what we have to do, fix ourselves. If they feel that that's going to happen, they can take the risk of firing first, starting it first. And what do you think the U.S. is going to do if Israel does that?
The U.S. into it.
We're going to stay. We're going to do the best that we can to defend Israel. That's why we got into this thing. That's why the 12-day war last June happened. We are very predictable, not just in as we prepare for war. Taking people off leave and all this. All these things look very likely. We've seen this before. But if we wanted to reverse and really, if Trump is really going to listen to people that put America first and his military who's telling him we're not capable of doing what you're asking us to do, this is hurting us, this is weakening us. If he's listening to those people and he says, okay, I'm ready to get done with this, I want to go take Cuba. I'd rather do Cuba. Cuba's going to be easy, right? He wants a new project, and he does get bored with things. So it's very possible that Israel will initiate hostilities, no matter who it gets blamed on, so that we stay and defend Israel's good name. But they don't have a good name anymore, but we would still defend them. So I don't know.
I'm talking about Israel. There's an article about Israel's brain drain as fears of permanent exodus. An economy built on tech success watches nervously as high-skilled, high earners leave the country and expats hesitate to return. That's in terms of Israel. The numbers are pretty staggering. For almost a decade before Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, Shiri, a Tel Aviv tech designer, toyed with the idea of starting. Okay, it's a long article about how Israel is just seeing an exodus. And there's a report now. Germany has become the leading European destination for Israelis emigrating abroad, as Israel recorded a negative migration balance for the first time in its history. According to the OECD, 82,700 Israelis left the country in 2024. with around 18% choosing Germany as their destination. Holocaust reparation laws make it easier for descendants of Jewish victims to obtain German citizenship. What is that? Holocaust reparation laws? I didn't know about that. Contributing a surge in passport applications since 2022. Didn't know there's Holocaust reparation laws.
No, but it makes sense, I guess, because Germany has really done a lot. I mean, Germany does a lot. Part of why Germany does not have free speech is because they really they very supportive of Israel, because I think how many generations since World War II have been indoctrinated in the extreme guilt. Germany bears that, but other countries bear that too. We Americans don't have that guilt. Who was it? FDR turned away a whole shipload of Jewish refugees because we didn't, I don't want Jews here. Basically, very, racist at the time, maybe a normal view. But FDR doesn't get hit for being an anti-Semite, although he was. But in Germany,
FDR said he doesn't want Jews in the U.S. He said that.
No, there was a ship of Jewish refugees, and it came to New York, and they would not let it dock. They would not let it come to, the island there that we process our immigrants. And it was a big issue. And finally it went, and I think it went all the way to Cuba. I'm not sure where it went, but it was not accepted into our country and FDR was pressured to do it because people could see the war. This was right before the war started. I think it could have been in the first year, but I think it was right before the war started. But he, think about who FDR was, a blue-blooded WASP, from a long line of people that look down upon. Come on. It's I
don't know much about this. I didn't know about this
kind of racism. You can look it up. The story is pretty clear. But what I'm saying is FDR and our government, and later, of course, we joined the war and all this and were positive. But FDR took no hits whatsoever in global standing for being anti-Jewish at that time. But after the war, of course, the loser gets to take all the guilt, and Germany absorbed that guilt.
Yeah.
It makes sense that they would have a great many things like that, reparation laws, and that's fine. That would be very ironic if the European Jews or the descendants of European Jews actually returned to their original homelands of Germany and all the other countries that they came from. Wouldn't that be it would be a peaceful resolution to the Zionist problem? But I doubt that's going to happen. But it's very concerning. Even in any country that's losing population, it becomes a national issue. I don't care. Like in Japan, they have an aging population. That's been a big issue for the Japanese. We are losing nobody's having children. We have what do we do? And that's another kind of ethnocentric population, and so for Israel, the loss of Jews in Israel, that's like losing. That's like you're losing the war, even though you're winning every war. But if you can't,
that was someone told me Israel's really good at killing people in tactical successes, but from a strategic perspective, it's not that great. And you can see this what's happening now.
Yep, they need an influx of Jews around the world. They need Jews to have children, but the only ones that are having children in Israel are the ones that won't serve in the IDF.
The Orthodox ones, the Orthodox guys. It is fascinating. Do you see the reports are coming out of Israel that the IDF is at breaking point right now? You saw those reports, and they need to start.
And also, too, the suicide rate of the IDF is high, and part of that's probably stress and other things. You cannot.
And guilt, probably.
I think it's suppressed guilt. They have to have it. Anyone who is a parent, and a lot of these young people are parents, or they have younger cousins and siblings, their brothers, they have nieces and nephews. When they kill a baby that looks, all babies look alike. I'm sorry, they all look alike. And when you kill one that looks very much like your niece or your nephew or your own child at home, whether you're doing it for your, because you believe it doesn't matter, there's something deeper than that is offended by murdering babies. And, our guys, same problem with our guys, our snipers, our people who have done terrible things to people. They suffer. You suffer emotionally when you come back.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a religious person to suffer. It's almost like you just have to be human. And when you do inhumane things over and over again, the only people that don't commit suicide are the psychopaths, and so then you're left with an increasingly psychopathic society. So it's not good. It's not a winning strategy for Israel, and you can see it, and they themselves know it. They have to heal themselves. But after this weekend, this is not. I hope I pray for all of them. I don't want war.
Yeah. Do you want to piss you off? Let me upset you. Lindsey Graham posted the following, nothing to do with Iran. I believe the liberation of the wonderful people of Cuba from the clutches of communism is close at hand. Cuba Libre.
Wow.
Literally, he just literally, all he did right now is replace Iran with Cuba, and posted the same thing as he did earlier this year.
I am sure that Trump would much rather deal with Cuba and a blockade of Cuba, which we're already doing. It is working. It's working in the Cuban case, not working in the Strait of Hormuz case, but it is working in Cuba's case. Cuba's small. It's close to home. And, Americans have been heavily indoctrinated that Cuba is a communist devil right on our shores. So Americans would support Trump. Not all of them. Obviously, any thinking American wouldn't support him, but it's an easier sell that we're going to liberate the Cubans than anything we're doing in the Middle East, because Americans don't know anything about Iran. What they know of Israel, our ally, is increasingly ugly. They don't, it's not the perfect little state that we maybe thought it would be or hoped it would be. And it's so far away. It's so far away. So we've deployed, and they're not comfortable with it. If Trump could pull back or bomb and then pull back and focus on Cuba, his popularity will rise. I would give it 25 points in a couple of weeks, even with high gas prices, because Americans can understand the Cuba thing. Not correctly. Cuba isn't even, I don't even know if you could call them communist anymore, but they're Cuba, and they're very proud people, and they're not going to take it kindly to being taken over. But that's something that Trump can more easily control globally. And also, whatever we do with Cuba, if the strait opens up, the world will be happy. No, but the world is not going to protect you. Not even Russia will protect Cuba. So Cuba is a goner.
You know what Trump is going to do? We're already seeing Cuba dominate the news cycle.
Yes.
Today was crazy. Cuba everywhere. Mm-hmm. Lindsey Graham just posted about Cuba. Yeah. I think what he's going to do is just double down on Cuba and make a move relatively early on Cuba to try to achieve a win there, and everyone just forgets about Iran. That's it. And he will walk away. We might see one last strike, but even I think that is questionable. I think this is all bluster. I think it would take a lot for him to strike Iran, like Iran not conceding on anything whatsoever, nothing at all. It would take a lot. And I really, really, really think he's just going to walk away, and Cuba is going to be his big distraction. Yeah. And probably more UFO files like today.
No. I think it makes sense. It makes sense. And I think Trump is not stupid. He's not stupid. I may have called him stupid before. He's not stupid. He understands the incredible potential loss to the planet of total destruction and total war in the Gulf region, whether it's, because Iran has the capability to withstand it and damage amazing amount of things. I think he believes that. I think he knows it. So this is a great trade-off. We're going to do Cuba. I tricked you again. I'm doing my 6D chess. I'm so smart. I'm so genius. We're going to, it's part of the Trump, the Trump Roe or the Don Roe doctrine. It's all good. And everybody forgets about it. And we just negotiate. And eventually there'll be some no-name negotiators, not his son-in-law and not,
Witkoff or Kushner.
Witkoff, not those guys. It'll be some no-name people from the State Department that they send over, and they'll work up a deal, and we'll end up with a new JCPOA. It won't be called that. It'll be called something else. It'll be called the Trump Agreement, or whatever. It'll be something, and sanctions will gradually be lifted, and the Iranians and the Omanis are going to control the strait, and they're going to tax it. But I think that's what will happen because honestly, when you mess with Iran, you are also messing with Russia and China.
Yeah.
We don't have the capability to do that. And I think these military people are telling him that. And also, his officers, his generals are probably saying, geez, just let us do Cuba. We can make that look good. I mean, of course, it won't look good for the Cubans because we can, but, we're an empire taking over a territory. But the military can sell that as a success because just like Israel, America likes to fight people that don't fight back. And the Cubans will
No.
fight us back with
We
rifles.
can't fight back.
No,
Yeah.
they can't fight back with very much. It would
What do
be
you
not much. So,
well, last thing I want to ask you about is Russia. What do you make of the developments there? The drone that was shut down over Estonia, the threats from Russia about striking drone factories and warehouses inside of NATO. The rhetoric coming out of Russia about even using a tactical nuke. I can't remember who said that. You probably would remember the diplomat.
I don't
No,
know.
not Medvedev this time. Yeah, not
Okay.
Medvedev. It was what's his name? Sergei Karaganov. He said that. He's an advisor of previous presidents. And just the scale of the attacks coming out of Ukraine against Russia, including Moscow.
Yeah.
Hundreds of drones.
Look, Europe they've decided to give 800 billion more in promises to Zelensky. Zelensky is on his last legs. I mean, he's had huge numbers of defections or members of his close advisors who are now either dead or arrested or fugitives somewhere. So he doesn't have a lot to work with. The population, I think, I saw somewhere that the population, when you count the territory that's clearly now Russian, under Russian control, and will stay under Russian control, they've lost half their population. The Ukrainians that have left are not coming back. They're not planning to come back. The war fields are contaminated with little bomblets and poisons and environmental toxins. I mean, it is not. I think our plan was to fight Russia over Ukraine, and it didn't matter if Ukraine was destroyed. Well, guess what? Ukraine's almost destroyed. Russia only wants the portion that they want. That's a fifth of the country. That's quite a bit, but they've taken it. So at this point, it's like, I think the Russians say, this war is over. And if you can't realize that it's over, then we're going to make you feel it so that you definitely realize. If you're that stupid and you can't, Europe, NATO, the Estonia, Latvia, all these countries that are so anti-Russia, if you can't realize that this is over and we need to have a better relationship, then guess what? We'll show you that if you want it to not be over, this is what it looks like when it's not over. You are going to get hit if you are fighting us, if you are supporting Iranian attacks on inside of Russia. And I think that's logical. And also, don't forget, everybody says, oh, Putin is a dictator and he doesn't have any responsibility to his population. That is so wrong. Even kings have responsibility to their populations. And the population of Russia is tired of this war. They know that it's been won, and they don't understand why Putin hasn't ended it. So the pressure is huge on them to end this war. It should have been ended a long time ago. It's ending now. And what's standing in the way? Well, the U.S., okay, because we haven't done anything since Anchorage, right? Trump has totally no interest in ending that war.
He's moved on. It's crazy.
He's moved on, yep. And so, I think Zelensky could be talked into it by certain people, probably in Great Britain. And he needs to go to one of his fancy houses that he owns in other countries. And Ukraine is a basket case. And that 800 billion that Europe pledged, I don't think they've given it yet. That really needs to go to helping what's left of Western Ukraine. Eastern Ukraine's looking good. Okay. Where the Russians have been for almost 4 years, it's operating like a Russian oblast or whatever. It's fine. Other than some continued warfare, but for the most part, it is operating. And the economy, it's working good. They're planting. Okay, they have fertilizers from Russia. Russia is a fertilizer producer, so they don't have the problem that the rest of the world that has to import it does. On the western part of Ukraine, it's a disaster zone. And the only reason in my opinion, the only reason the major cities like Kiev and some of the other historical Odessa haven't been flattened is because those are Russian cities, and Russia does not want to destroy those cities. They want the war to be over. They want Ukraine to behave itself and not be not be a tool of NATO. And also, NATO is not popular in NATO countries. The leadership of this again, people do matter. Elections may not really matter. We try to vote and we think people voted for Trump. They thought they were getting America first. They weren't. But what people think and how they feel is important, and all politicians have to pay attention to that. And I think Trump is. Trump is concerned that his ratings are. So that's a good thing.
I have a feeling something's going to happen, by the way. KC-135 Stratotanker took off from Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv and turned off his flight transponder immediately after takeoff.
Well,
One KC-46 Pegasus refueling tanker is flying over the Mutana Governorate, southern Iraq. I worry there could be a very limited assassination happening.
Well, I don't doubt you. I don't doubt you at all. This is what I've been worrying about for a long time, and I do not feel my gut is worried, and it has been, because I just don't think Trump can walk away. I think he has to slap somebody. It's not good, but the Iranians know our games. They know how we operate. So I don't think it's going to be effective. But if it's politically effective for Trump, if it allows Trump to end this thing and focus on the next problem he has, then that'll be good. But I pray for everybody. I think I don't want war is the most stupid thing that people do, that governments especially do. And of course, the profiteers. We don't talk about them very often, but there's always profiteers of war. And we have a lot of them in the United States, a lot of them in Israel. They profit from war. Other people dying oftentimes can be measured in dollars, in shekels. And that's sad. That's the worst side of humanity. That's something that, they say humans are always going to fight, that we're a warring people, that just people want war. And I don't think that's really true. I think states want war. Kings want war. So ultimately they have to answer to the people. Our empire is failing. And that's the positive, regardless. And I don't want more people to die to have our empire transform back into a republic or something else. But it is at the end of its rope. China knows it. Russia knows it. Most of the people in the world know it. It's just that Americans are. It's hard to admit. It's a sad. We're going to be hurting in the future years, with or without an immediate end of the Iran war. It's just the world's changed. Nothing stays the same.
Karen, a pleasure to speak to you. Hopefully, we're going to have a peaceful long weekend, even though things are not looking good at all. But we'll see. I'm sure my team will ping you as soon as there's some bad news. If you get a message from us, it means it's not a good thing.
Okay. Well, I hope for the best. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes. Thank you, Mario. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. So I do have a feeling something could happen tonight, and I think it will be Israel that makes the move, because the US wants to shield the Gulf from retaliation. Not sure that's going to happen. And I think it will be limited as well. I think it'll be a limited assassination strike against some of the negotiators, maybe even Mujtaba Khamenei, that are standing in the way of concessions on the Iranian side. I think that's the thought process, at least by Trump. He's going to ask Iran, or give them the green light, ask Israel to conduct that strike. And obviously expect some pretty significant retaliation from Iran. And that's my worry. Now, obviously, there's a scenario where nothing happens, which I think is still very, very likely. There's another report here. U.S. Air Force KC-135 and KC-46 refueling tankers spotted over the Middle East amid reports that the Iran war is restarting. Both aircraft departed Tel Aviv, heading east towards the Persian Gulf. Yeah, so there's a lot of bad indicators, guys. Iran closed their airspace in the west. So I might be going live again very, very shortly by the looks of it. Okay, a squadron of Israeli jets, KK, we might need to get a new guest. A squadron of Israeli jets flying over the West Bank, heading eastwards. So it does look like there could be an Israeli strike on Iran. I think we might be seeing an imminent strike. All right, I'll be going live as soon as there's more updates on Media Go Live. I'm keeping a close eye. I'll tell the producers to stay up as well to make sure we get guests ready. And as soon as there's something, we'll immediately go live. We'll be also going live on Spaces on Twitter, on X. All right, guys, I'll probably see you in a few minutes. Fuck, bye.